Breaking news from the Middle East. Tensions are rising once again as Israel confirms it has launched strikes against positions linked to Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. This comes after rockets were fired toward northern Israeli territory, triggering air defense responses. According to the Israeli military, the strikes were carried out to eliminate what they described as an immediate threat. Fortunately, emergency services reported no casualties from the rocket attacks. However, this latest escalation comes at a sensitive moment. A fragile ceasefire is currently in place between Iran and the United States, with diplomatic talks expected to take place in Pakistan. But despite this agreement, fighting between Israel and Hezbollah has not stopped. Hezbollah claims its attacks are a response to what it calls violations of the ceasefire, while Israel maintains that the agreement does not apply to Lebanon. Meanwhile, the situation on the ground remains tense. In Lebanon, airstrikes have caused significant destruction, while in Israel, civilians continue to take shelter during missile alerts. Global leaders are closely watching developments. There are growing concerns that continued clashes could undermine upcoming peace talks and potentially drag the region into a wider conflict. At the center of this crisis is a major question. Can diplomacy succeed before the situation spirals out of control? For now, the ceasefire remains fragile, and the risk of further escalation is very real. Stay tuned for more updates. Israel says it struck Hezbollah's site after rockets launched from Lebanon. While Pakistan is gearing up to welcome U.S. and Iranian delegations for expected talks, the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah continues. A short while ago, the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, says it detected rockets launched by Hezbollah from southern Lebanon to Israel. The IDF says that it struck the premises used to launch the rockets to remove the threat. In a separate recent update, Israel's emergency service, Magen David Adom, says that no casualties have been reported following rocket fire towards northern Israel. Islamabad waiting for U.S. and Iran delegations to arrive. Carrie Davies, reporting from Islamabad, Pakistan. A Pakistani security official stands guard as vehicles carrying U.S. officials pass by following their arrival at Nur Khan Air Base ahead of talks involving U.S. and Iranian delegations in Islamabad, Pakistan, 10 April 2026. Image source, EPA/Shutterstock. In Islamabad, the security cordon is extending. While the BBC was filming in the D Chowk area of the city, near the President's house, the main crossroads in front of Parliament, the police began to move TV crews back. A spokesman for the Islamabad police told the team that they expected the delegations to arrive shortly, although they did not confirm who would be arriving or when. Around the red zone, the area of the capital with the majority of government buildings and foreign embassies has been closed off with barbed wire. There are an increased number of checkpoints in the city and less traffic on the streets. Police, army, and paramilitaries are on the streets to provide security, and international journalists are landing in the city. As yet, there is no official confirmation that either of the delegations have arrived in the capital. Yesterday, Iran's ambassador to Pakistan posted that their delegation would be landing that night, but deleted the post within an hour. There's also been no official schedule announced by Pakistan, but the White House had previously said that the talks would take place on Saturday morning. Islamabad is waiting. Advertisement. A ceasefire, scheduled talks, continuing strikes, BBC reports across the Middle East. A rescue team member walks through the rubble of a building in Tehran. Image source, newer photo via Getty Image. Image caption, in Tehran, Iran, buildings have been reduced to rubble during the conflict. A ceasefire between Iran and the U.S. is in place, and peace talks are expected this weekend, but strikes continue between Hezbollah and Israel. Throughout the latest developments, the BBC has been speaking to those affected and reporting across the region. In Iran, where fighting has been paused for 2 weeks, 15-year-old Ali, not his real name, tells the BBC's Fergal Keane that due to the war, even the smallest sound causes my brain to react very badly. "I should be able to study, to work, and become an independent person in the future, not be constantly worrying about politics, living in stress, thinking about bombs falling, with endless fears." In Lebanon, war rages on. The guns were supposed to have fallen silent, writes the BBC's Hugo Bachega, but just as the region was breathing a sigh of relief, Israeli jets conducted a 10-minute blitz across Lebanon. He's been reporting on the ground in the Lebanese capital, Beirut. In the video below, you can watch his latest report from the site of an Israeli airstrike. BBC at the site of Israeli airstrikes in Beirut. In Israel, the BBC's Middle East correspondent Lucy Williamson reported from the scene of a strike in Haifa, northern Israel, before the conditional ceasefire was agreed. Watch Lucy's report below. Analysis. Ceasefire or no ceasefire, the Middle East's reshuffling is not yet done, our international editor Jeremy Bowen writes, and the biggest obstacle to the success of talks between the US and Iran is the total absence of trust. Media caption, Daily Gamble of Russian Roulette, BBC at site of Iran strike in Haifa, Israel. Volatile oil prices could spell higher costs for everyday goods. Mark Ashdown, business correspondent. Fuel dispensers stand at an Orlen petrol station in Prague, Czech Republic. Image source, EPA/Shutterstock. The price of oil has become a key indicator for the impact of the turmoil in the Middle East. But while the price of the benchmark, Brent crude, has become something of an obsession over the past month, it doesn't really reflect the true cost of this precious commodity. Brent crude, bobbing around the $95 mark at the time of writing, reflects the future price of a barrel of oil, to be delivered in about 2 months. However, if you want a barrel of the black stuff delivered immediately, the price is far higher. London Stock Exchange data has 40s blend, the indicator for prompt delivery, pegged at around $147 a barrel. That's the price Asian and European refineries are having to pay to secure immediate supplies. It rarely reaches this level, and last spiked to similar highs in 2008, just before the global financial crisis. It demonstrates that while the future price of oil might be elevated and extremely volatile at the moment, the impact on daily deliveries is far more painful and could spell even higher prices for fuel, food, and everyday goods. Share. Advertisement. Starmer departs Qatar, bringing an end to 3 days of talks in the Gulf. Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer boards a plane at the airport in Doha. Keir Starmer, who is ending his trip to the Gulf states, says most of the discussions he had with senior officials concerned the practical plan on getting boats through the Strait of Hormuz. The critical waterway typically sees 20% of the world's gas and oil passing through, but Iran has threatened to strike vessels that cross without permission, causing crossings to drop. This conflict is going to define us for a generation, and we must respond, and we will respond with strength, Starmer says, as he explains that he discussed collective self-defense with the leaders of the Gulf states. On Thursday night, Starmer held a call with U.S. President Donald Trump, where Downing Street says the two leaders discussed the current ceasefire, as well as the need for a practical plan to get shipping moving through the Strait of Hormuz. Looking ahead, the Prime Minister accepts that the current ceasefire is fragile and tells broadcasters that there can't be tolling or restrictions on that navigation through the Strait of Hormuz as part of any long-term peace deal in the region. Advertisement. Israel struck Lebanon site after rockets launched from Lebanon. As attention turns to possible talks between Lebanon and Israel next week, we can bring you a recap of what we heard from Iran's deputy foreign minister yesterday. Iran has made it clear that it believes Lebanon was covered by the 2-week ceasefire agreement brokered with the U.S., something Washington and Israel dispute. On Thursday, Iran's deputy foreign minister Saeed Khatibzadeh told the BBC continued Israeli attacks on Lebanon are a grave violation of the agreement. At least 303 people were killed on Wednesday in airstrikes on what Israel called Hezbollah command centers and military sites, the Lebanese health ministry said.
Khatibzadeh told Radio 4's Today program that the U.S. must choose between war and ceasefire, and that it cannot have cake and eat it at the same time. Read a full account of Khatibzadeh's interview with the BBC. Israeli attacks were a grave violation of ceasefire, Iran Deputy Foreign Minister. Lebanon tells the BBC it will take part in talks with Israel if a ceasefire is in place. Published at 15:02. Breaking. Samantha Granville, reporting from Beirut. A senior official in the Lebanese president's office has just confirmed to the BBC that Lebanon will participate in direct negotiations with Israel next week, if and only if there is a ceasefire in place beforehand. The day and time of the meeting has not been set. Direct talks between Lebanon and Israel are not unprecedented, but they are unusual. The two countries generally communicate through intermediaries, such as the U.S. Efforts to establish negotiations have